Okay, this is actually an introduction to Romanticism, but before I get into Romanticism, I want to remind you about what preceded it, because Romanticism is really a reaction against the Enlightenment and a reaction against neoclassic style. Remember that in this period, in general, especially with respect to the Enlightenment, we're valuing science, objectivity, the idea that there is a clear, kind of comprehensible through reason, objective truth, and kind of the mechanics of human prosperity. Remember, because Enlightenment thinkers believed, or many of them believed, that you could reach, kind of a perfect society. You can perfect human beings, perfect society through through reason, right? Through reason and science, you could make everything better. Remember that the Enlightenment is not a style; it is a thought process. It's a thinking, right? It's a thinking movement. Neoclassicism is a style. Many neoclassical works are also, follow Enlightenment thinking, but not all of them, but many. Um, So here clearly we have a piece of neoclassicism. This is another David painting. You've already watched work about the oath, that you about that you did earlier today, or hopefully you did. So David, another kind of large painter. So of course we have, painter of neoclassic style. So clearly we can have neoclassical style here. And this is, of course, Socrates, taking the poison because he has been sentenced to death, and him volunteering to take the poison. So reminder, Enlightenment, right? And when I gave you the video before, I'd forgotten to put in the fruit and insects piece, but that is clearly an Enlightenment piece. Remember, Enlightenment isn't a style; it's a thinking, right? And Enlightenment pieces that are like really purely Enlightenment tend to follow Baroque style. All right, neoclassical is something different, right? But there is some crossover. Remember, for neoclassical, there's this desire for painting, at least with invisible brushwork. And so we have Monticello, we have the George Washington statue, which is great. You did this one, the Oath of Horatii, today, and then actually I'm going to talk about this one, the Le Grand Odalisque, with respect to Romanticism, because the content, as you'll see a little bit later on. Okay, so when we get to Romanticism, what ends up happening is this: that certain artists have had enough with the idea about reason being the answer and science being the answer to everything. And so, remember, the Enlightenment believed that reason could solve everything, right? And the universe was just kind of this clock, right, that kind of set into motion and just get all the pieces working correctly, and then we're good. But Romanticism is going to reject the reliance, on reason, and put the emphasis back on human emotion and human creativity and the soul, et cetera, et cetera. So one way you can think about it, I mean, I guess I could have the new Spock and Kirk. I have the old Spock and Kirk. So like Spock would be the rational, the kind of Enlightenment style thinker, and Kirk would be the super emotional romantic, right? So ultimately, it's about believing that rationalism is a false way of understanding human beings. It's going to lead you astray because it's incomplete. And in fact, the individual imagination is more real than science. And the example that's always given is, well, okay, what's more real to you, a rainbow that you can see and appreciate, or the vapor? Because we know vapor makes up the rainbow, but what's more real to you, the rainbow or the vapor, right? And the fact that reality is more than just what you can see with your eye. So again, it's questioning the idea that human beings can kind of grasp and control and understand everything. In fact, reality is something that is perceived with a faculty of of the human that is not just in the brain, right? So this is Blake. He's a famous romantic writer. He wrote the Lamb and the Tiger, the poems probably that you know, and he was also an artist. So what are the romantics interested in? They are interested in common man, right? As a feeling individual. They love nature. It's all about nature, but it's nature in its uncultivated form. It's like the opposite of your gardens at Versailles, which were so manicured and precisely cut and trimmed and things like that. So the romantics would say that why do that? You know, nature is far more beautiful if you just let it grow. The artist is inspired by nature, among other things, but primarily by nature. Interest in the lone man, the individual, you know, isolation, so not being part of a crowd. Interest in freedom and also the foreign and the exotic, and also at the same time nationalism. So there's a strong nationalistic streak in Romanticism as well. And then ultimately, you want to think about preference of emotion over reason. Okay, another Blake piece, which I really like. That's his depiction of God. Okay, so what are our romantic pieces? And as you look at these, you can kind of really pick out, obviously, the things that I've said regarding, you know, what the romantics are interested in. So liberating the people, we have slave ship, we have the oxbow, we have, you know, High Remedio, which is their Goya piece, which is really great. And then this piece, which doesn't look like any of them, right? Le Grand Odalisque, you can, like, stylistically, like, that doesn't seem to fit at all. And it doesn't, because it really is more neoclassical style. But the content is very romantic. So I'm going to put it into the romantic section. Okay. So Romanticism, you've got it. Great. Thanks.